Good day, everyone. Welcome to Learn and Solve TV. In this video, we are going to talk about factoring perfect square trinomial. Let's begin by enumerating the characteristics of a perfect square trinomial. So the following expressions are examples of perfect square trinomial. Sa activity na to, aalamin natin ang mga characteristic ng isang perfect square trinomial. So I want you to look at the first terms. Ano ang common sa mga terms na ito? Tama, lahat ng terms na ito ay perfect square. Meaning, the first term of a perfect square trinomial is a perfect square. Now, look at the last terms. Ano naman ang napansin ninyo sa mga terms na ito? Tama! Ang last term ay perfect square din. Paano naman kaya ang middle term? Ano ang common sa mga terms na ito? Correct! The middle term is 2 or negative 2 times the product of the square root of the first term and the square root of the last term. Itong tatlo na ito ang mga characteristics ng isang perfect square trinomial. Let's apply those properties to determine whether the given expression is a perfect square trinomial. Number 1, a squared plus 22a plus 121. Ang una nating gagawin is to check if the first term and the last term are perfect squares. So para sa a squared, alam naman natin na ang a squared is equal to a times a, kaya naman ang square root ng a squared ay a. Para naman sa 121, we can express this as 11 times 11. That's why the square root of 121 is 11. Therefore, ang first term natin at ang last term natin ay parehong perfect squares. Next, the middle term is 2 or negative 2 times the product of the square root of the first term and the square root of the last term. So, kailangan kapag minultiply natin ang square root ng a squared, which is a, at ang square root ng 121, which is 11, sa 2 or negative 2, kailangan na makuha natin ay 22a. Kapag nasatisfy natin yan, pwede na natin i-conclude na ang a squared plus 22a plus 121 is a perfect square trinomial. Next, 4x squared minus 4xy plus y squared. Again, kailangan nating i-check kung ang first term at ang last term ay parehong perfect squares. Para sa ating first term na 4x squared, pwede natin itong i-express as 2x times 2x. Kaya naman, ang square root niya ay 2x. Para naman sa y squared, pwede natin siyang i-express as y times y. So, ang square root niyan ay y. Since parehong pwedeng makuha ang square root, pwede na natin silang i-consider as perfect squares. Next na kailangan nating masatisfy ay ang middle term nila, which is negative 4xy, dapat ay 2 or negative 2 times the square root ng mga terms na ito. So, since negative to, negative ang ating middle term, sa negative 2 tayo magmumultiply. So, we know that the square root of 4x squared is 2x, while the square root of y squared is y. Then, imumultiply natin yan. Negative 2 times 2x is negative 4x, times y is equal to negative 4xy. Observe that this product is equal to the middle term. Therefore, 4x squared minus 4xy plus y squared is a perfect square trinomial. For number 3, we have 16x squared plus 20x plus 4. Ano ba ang una nating gagawin upang malaman kung perfect square trinomial ang given na polynomial? Tama! I-check muna natin kung perfect squares ang ating first term at ang ating last term. Para sa first term, ito ay pwedeng i-express as 4x times 4x. So, ang square root niyan ay 4x. Para naman sa last term, yan ay pwede nating i-express as 2 times 2. So, ang square root ng 4 ay 2. For the middle term, dapat kapag minultiply natin ang square root nila na 4x at 2 sa 2 or negative 2, kailangan lumabas ang middle term na 20x. So, let's check. We have 2, since positive ang middle term, sa positive 2 tayo mag-multiply, times the square root of 16x squared, which is 4x, square root of 4, which is 2. So, 2 times 4x is 8x, times 2 is 16x. So, as you can see, hindi natin nakuha ang middle term. Kaya naman, this trinomial is not a perfect square trinomial. For number 4, let's have 64x squared minus 16x plus 10. Kapag chinek natin kung perfect square ba ang first term at ang last term, makakakuha tayo sa first term ng 8x times 8x, meaning 64x squared is a perfect square. Para naman sa 10, ang factor nito ay 2 times 5. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya perfect square. Kaya naman, this trinomial is not a perfect square trinomial. So let's try the following. Tell whether the given trinomial is a perfect square trinomial or not. Number 1, 49x squared plus 28x plus 4. Number 2, 36x squared minus 4. Number 3, y squared minus 8x plus 16. And number 4, 25x squared plus 10x minus 1. Pwede niyong i-pause ang video na to kung masyadong mabilis para meron kayong enough time to answer. So, para sa number 1, ang sagot dyan ay perfect square trinomial. Number 2, not, because this is a difference of two squares. Number 3, perfect square trinomial. And for number 4, it is not, because the last term must be positive. Remember that for a perfect square trinomial, kailangan positive pareho ang first term at last term. Ang pwede lang maging negative ay ang middle term. So how are we going to factor perfect square trinomial? For the pattern, let x and y be real numbers, variables, or algebraic expressions. For x squared plus 2xy plus y squared, we have this factored form. For x squared minus 2xy plus y squared, we are going to follow this pattern. Now look at the first term of this factor. As you can see, x here is the square root of x squared, while y here is the square root of y squared. Same with this pattern. Ang x na to at x na to ay square root ng x squared dito, at ang y naman na to at y na to ay square root ng y squared. Now, anong pinagkaiba nila? Very good. Ang kanilang operation. Dito, x plus 2xy. So, ang middle term nito ay nakamultiply sa positive 2. Dito naman, ang middle term ay nakamultiply sa negative 2. Kung positive to, tandaan, lahat ng factors ay parehong addition. Kung minus naman, ang mga factors ay parehong subtraction. I-apply natin ang pattern na yon sa paghahanap ng factors ng perfect square trinomial. Number 1, factor a squared plus 22a plus 121 completely. So, kuhanin natin ang square root ng a squared. Ang square root ng a squared ay a. Kuhanin din natin ang square root ng 121, which is 11. Since perfect square trinomial na to, gagamitin na natin ang pattern para makuha ang factors niya. Tandaan, kapag positive ang operation na to or kapag addition operation na ito, parehong addition ang magiging factors. So, ito ang ating pattern na i-apply. After natin makuha ang square root ng first term at last term, gagawin lang natin siyang a plus 11 times the quantity of a plus 11, or square of a plus 11. Iyon na ang factored form ng a squared plus 22a plus 121. Another example, factor 4x squared plus 20xy plus 25y squared completely. Kukuhanin lang natin ang square root ng 4x squared, which is 2x, square root of 25y squared, which is 5y. Then, check natin kung ano ang operation sa gitna, sa middle term. Since addition to, ang gagamitin natin na pattern ay parehong addition ang factors. So, pag pinagsama natin to, magiging 2x plus 5y times the quantity of 2x plus 5y. Yun na ang ating sagot. So, dito sa factored form na to, kukumpletuhin lang natin siya. So, dito ilalagay natin ang 2x, then 5y. So, we have quantity of 2x plus 5y times the quantity of 2x plus 5y, or, since pareho naman siyang factor, pwede natin siyang i-express as the square of 2x plus 5y. Therefore, 4x squared plus 20xy plus 25y squared is equal to the square of 2x plus 5y, or the product of 2x plus 5y and 2x plus 5y. Tandaan, ang pattern na ito ay applicable lamang sa perfect square trinomial. Number 3, let's factor x squared minus 16x plus 64 completely. First, kuhanin ulit natin ang square root ng x squared. Ano nga ang square root ng x squared? Very good. Ang square root niyan ay x. About the square root of 64. Correct. That is 8. Now look at the operation of the middle term. It is 1. Therefore, ang i-apply natin na pattern ay may factored form na parehong naka-subtraction. So, pagsasamahin lang natin ang x at ang 8 at ang magiging operation ay parehong minus. Therefore, the factored form is the quantity x minus 8 times the quantity x minus 8 or the square of x minus 8. Next example, let's have factor 4x squared minus 4x plus 1 completely. Ano ang una natin na dapat gawin para makuha ang factors nito? Okay. Since alam naman natin na ito ay perfect square, pwede na nating diretsuhin sa pagkuha ng square root ng first term, which is 2x, at sa square root ng last term, which is 1. Pero kapag hindi pa natin sigurado kung perfect square trinomial ba siya, kailangan muna nating i-apply ang concepts para malaman kung perfect square trinomials ba o hindi ang given na polynomial. So going back to our example, after natin makuha ang square root ng first term at last term, tingnan naman natin ang operation niya sa middle term. Okay, since ang middle term natin ay negative, ang gagamitin natin na pattern ay, okay, parehong naka-subtraction ang factors. So pag pinagsama natin ng 2x at 1, ang magiging operation nila ay subtraction. So, dapat maging 2x minus 1 squared to. So, we have here 2x and 1. And the operation must be minus. So, we have the product of 2x minus 1 and 2x minus 1. Or the square of 2x minus 1. Therefore, the factored form of 4x squared minus 4x plus 1 is the product of 2x minus 1 and 2x minus 1 or the square of 2x minus 1. Now let's try to answer the following. Write the factored form of the given perfect square trinomials. Number 1, 49x squared plus 28x plus 4. Number 2, x squared minus 20x plus 100. Number 3, y squared minus 8x plus 16. And number 4, 25x squared plus 10xy plus y squared. Maaari ninyong i-pause ang video na ito upang makapagsagot kayo ng maayos at nang meron kayong enough time. So here are the answers. That is the end of our discussion. I hope you learned something new today. Thank you and keep solving.